This video is for those of you who are taking the OAT test, and it focuses only on the math section, that is the quantitative reasoning section. For each of these problems, pause the video and try it yourself. So this video just contains a lot of practice problems, and by doing problems you can learn the material that you need to know for the math section of the OAT exam. So let's go ahead and begin. Number 1, what is the distance between the points -4, 2 and 8, 7? To find the answer, we need to use the distance formula. It's equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. X1 is -4, y1 is 2. X2 is 8, and y2 is 7. So now we just have to plug everything into that equation. So x2 minus x1, that's going to be 8 minus -4 squared. y2, which is 7, minus y1, which is 2 squared. Now 8 minus -4 is the same as 8 plus 4. So this becomes 12 squared. And 7 minus 2 is 5. 12 squared is 144. 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. 144 plus 25, that's 169. And the square root of 169 is 12, so this is the answer. So answer choice D is the right answer. Number 2, which of the following is equivalent to the expression shown below? So what is 3x minus 2y squared? What do we need to do here? So take a minute, pause the video, and try it. And when you have your answer, unpause it to see if you have the right solution. 3x minus 2y squared means that we have two 3x minus 2y factors multiplied to each other. So what we need to do is FOIL. We need to multiply the first terms, 3x times 3x, which is 9x squared. You need to add the exponents, 1 plus 1 is 2. Next, we need to multiply 3x times -2y, and that's -6xy. And then we can multiply -2y times 3x, which is also -6xy. And -2y times -2y is positive 4y squared. Now the last thing that we need to do is combine like terms. -6 plus -6 is -12. So the final answer is 9x squared minus 12xy plus 4y squared. So this is the solution. Therefore, this corresponds to answer choice B. Number 3, if the circumference of a circle is 10 pi, what is the area of the circle? So you need to know the formula of the circumference and the area. The circumference is 2 pi r, and the area is pi r squared. So here is a circle, and here is the length of the radius. The radius is the distance between the center of the circle and any point on the circle. The circumference is basically the distance around the circle, or you could think of it as the perimeter of the circle. Now, we're given that the circumference is 10 pi, and what we need to do is find the radius. So if we divide both sides by 2 pi, on the right, 2 pi divided by 2 pi is 1, so we're left with just r. On the left, the pi's cancel, and 10 divided by 2 is 5, so the radius is 5. Now we could take that value, plug it into this equation. So the area is going to be pi times the radius squared, or 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25, so the area is 25 pi square units. Therefore, C is the right answer. Number 4, what is the value of the logarithmic expression shown below? So before we try to evaluate this, let's review some basic properties of logs. Let's say if we want to find the value of log base 5 of 25. How many 5s do we have to multiply to get to 25? 5 times 5 is 25. So we need to multiply 2 5s to get to 25. Therefore, log base 5 of 25 is 2. Log base 3 of, let's say, 9 is also 2, because 3 squared is 9. Now let's try some more examples. What is log base 4 of 64? How many 4s do we have to multiply to get to 64? 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So we got to multiply 4 3 times to get to 64. So log base 4 of 64 is 3. Now let's say if we want to find log base 2 of 32. We need to multiply 2 5 times to get to 32, because 2 to the 5th power is 32. So log base 2 of 32 is equal to 5. And always know that log of 1 is always equal to 0, regardless of what the base is. 3 to the 0 is 1, or anything raised to the 0 power is 1. Now there are some other properties of logs they need to know. The first one is the product rule. Log AB is equal to log A plus log B. Sometimes you may need to expand a log. Log A divided by B is equal to log A minus log B. And the power rule, log A to the x, you can take this and move it here. That's equal to x log A. Now sometimes you may want to use the change of base formula. So for example, log base A of B is equal to log B over log A. Now we said that log base 4 of 64 is equal to 3. If you type in your calculator log 64 divided by log 4, this will also give you 3. And the new base could be anything, so you can put a C here. In your calculator, if you don't have a base, it's always assumed to be 10. But you'll get the right answer, which is 3. Now sometimes you may need to convert it to exponential form. For example, log base A of B is equal to C. To convert it to its exponential form, start with A. A raised to the C is equal to B. So for example, log base 5 of 125 is equal to what number? You have to multiply 3 5s to get to 125. So this is 3. So therefore, 5 to the 3rd power is equal to 125. And that's how you can convert a logarithmic expression into an exponential expression. Now let's go ahead and work on this problem. So take a minute and see if you can figure it out. So we need to use the product rule on these two numbers. Instead of multiplying 8 by 16, we can expand it and say this is equivalent to log base 2 of 8 plus log base 2 of 16. Keep in mind log AB is equal to log A plus log B. Now here we have division. Log A divided by B is log A minus log B. So this becomes equivalent to log 3 of 247 minus, not 247, but 243 minus log base 3 of 27. Now let's simplify each logs. How many 2's do we have to multiply to get to 8? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, so we got to multiply 3 2's to get to 8. So log base 2 of 8 is 3. Now how many 2's we got to multiply to get to 16? We know 2 to the 4th is 16, so log base 2 of 16 is 4. Now how many 3's do we need to multiply to get to 243? 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81, times 3 is 243. So it takes 5 3's to get to 243, and it takes only 3 3's to get to 27. 3 to the 3rd power is 27. Now 3 plus 4 is 7, and 5 minus 3 is 2, and 7 minus 2 is 5. And so this is the final answer. That's the value of the logarithmic expression that we had in the beginning. Number 5. If 3x plus 7 is equal to 5x plus 1, then what is the value of 7x plus 4? So for a question like this, we need to find the value of x first using this linear equation, and then we could find the value of the expression 7x plus 4. So 3x plus 7 is equal to 5x plus 1. Let's begin by subtracting both sides by 3x and by 1. So we can cancel 3x and 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. 5x minus 3x is 2x. Now our next step is to divide both sides by 2. X is 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Now that we have the value of x, we can use it to find the value of 7x plus 4. So that's going to be 7 times 3 plus 4. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So E is the answer. Number 6. If sine x equals 4 over 5 and cosine x is greater than 0, what is the value of tangent x? Before we work on this problem, let's review a few things. The first thing you need to know is SOHCAHTOA. Focusing on the first part, so this tells us that sine theta, or sine x, is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Focusing on cosine theta is equal to the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And the last part, TOA, tells us that tangent theta is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. So keep these three formulas in mind. Now let's say if we have a right triangle, and here's the angle theta. And let's say that this side is 7 and this is 25. And we want to find the value of sine, cosine, and tangent. How can we do so? Now the first thing we need to do is find the third side of the triangle. Whenever you have a right triangle, this is A, this is B, that's C. C is the hypotenuse, A and B are the legs of the triangle. You can use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So 7 squared plus B squared, the missing side, is equal to 25 squared. Now there are certain special right triangles that you may want to commit to memory. The first one is the 3, 4, 5 right triangle. The next one is the 5, 12, 13 triangle. There's also the 8, 15, 17 triangle, and the 7, 24, 25 triangle. So we have 7 and 25. The missing side has to be 24. Now, if you ever forget that, you can always fall back to this equation. 7 squared is 49. 25 squared is 625. 625 minus 49 is 576. And the square root of 576 will give you 24. So you can always use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. Now that we have all three sides of the right triangle, let's find the value of sine theta. Now we said that sine theta is equal to the ratio of the opposite side of the right triangle over the hypotenuse. Opposite to theta is 24. The hypotenuse is the longer side of the triangle. It's the third side. It's the side across the box. That is the 90-degree angle. So in this case, sine theta is 24 over 25. Now what about cosine theta? Cosine theta is equal to the adjacent side, which is the side that's next to the angle, which is not the hypotenuse. That's 7, divided by the hypotenuse of 25. So that's the value of cosine theta. Tangent theta is equal to the opposite side, which is 24, divided by the adjacent side. So it's 24 over 7. Now, tangent theta is also sine theta divided by cosine theta. So if you were to take 24 over 25 and divide it by 7 over 25, you would still get 24 over 27. 24 over 7, because the 25s will cancel. So now you know how to evaluate sine, cosine, and tangent with the use of a right triangle. Okay, I'm not sure what just happened here. Let's undo that. Sometime this laptop has a mind of its own. Now, there's some other things you need to know. Cosecant theta is 1 over sine theta. These are the reciprocal identities. You don't need to know it for this problem, but you may need it later on. Secant theta is 1 divided by cosine, and cotangent theta is 1 over tangent. Now, there's one more thing that you need to know for this particular problem, and that is the sign of cosine, sine, and tangent. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Sine is associated with the y values. Y is positive whenever you go up. That is, y is positive in quadrants 1 and 2. So sine is positive in 1 and 2. Y is negative below the x-axis. So sine is going to be negative in quadrants 3 and 4. Cosine is associated with the x values. The x values are positive on the right side. So cosine is going to be positive in 1 and 4. It's negative in 2 and 3. Tangent is y divided by x. So tangent will only be positive in 1 and 3. Tangent is negative in quadrants 2 and 4. So why is that important? Well, if we look at the problem that we have, notice that sine is positive 4 over 5. So therefore, the triangle is either in quadrant 1 or 2. Now cosine is greater than 0, which means it's positive 2. Therefore, we know the right triangle has to be in quadrant 1, where tangent is positive. And so that's why you need to know this, because you have to draw the right triangle. Okay, what just happened? You have to draw the right triangle in the appropriate quadrant. For example, sine x is 4 over 5 in quadrants 1 and 2, but it's negative 4 over 5 in quadrants 3 and 4. So if you don't have the right quadrant, your answer could be negative or it could be positive. So you want to get the right sign. But look at our answers. All the answers are positive, which means that we could assume it's in quadrant 1. But in case you had negative answers, you have to make sure that you have the right quadrant. So instead of theta, the angle is x. Let's put x between a hypotenuse and the x-axis. Sine theta, or sine x, is opposite over a hypotenuse. So on the opposite side, we have a 4, and the hypotenuse is 5. Now this is going to be a 3, 4, 5 right triangle, which means the missing side is 3. So now we can find the value of tangent. Tangent x is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. So tangent is 4 divided by 3. Therefore, D is the right answer. Number 7. What is the value of the expression shown below? So go ahead and try that problem. So we need to divide two fractions. How can we do that? The first fraction is known as an improper fraction. And the reason why it's called that is because the numerator, the number on top, exceeds the denominator, the number on the bottom. The second fraction is also an improper fraction. 3 over 4 is known as a proper fraction because the numerator is less than the denominator. Just some things to know. So how can we divide two improper fractions? There's something called keep, change, flip. Basically, to apply it, you need to keep the first fraction the same way as it is, change division to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. So we're going to write it as 15 over 28 as opposed to 28 over 15. Now, when multiplying two fractions, you're allowed to multiply across, which is you can do 35 times 15 and then 24 times 28 and reduce the new fraction that you have. But it's a lot easier if you simplify first before multiplying, rather than multiplying first and then simplifying. Let me illustrate. 35 is 7 times 5, and 15 is 5 times 3. 24 is 8 times 3, and 28 is 7 times 4. So notice that we can cancel a 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. We can also cancel with 3. Now what we have left is 5 over 8 times 5 over 4. So now we can multiply across. 5 times 5 is 25. 8 times 4 is 32. And so this is the answer. 25 divided by 32. So that corresponds to answer choice B. So when multiplying two fractions, cancel first. You want to simplify the fractions first by canceling and then multiply. It's going to be a lot easier if you do it this way. Number 8. If the area of a square is 100, what is the perimeter of the square? So let's draw a square. You need to know that all 4 sides of a square are congruent. And every angle in a square is 90 degrees. So let's say that the side length is S. The area, therefore, is length times width, or S times S. So the area is side squared. The perimeter is basically the sum of the 4 sides. So S plus S plus S plus S. If you add S 4 times, it's equal to 4S. So if the area is 100, we could solve for S. So we got to take the square root of both sides. The square root of 100 is 10. So therefore, we have a square where all 4 sides are 10. So to find the perimeter, we just need to add 10 4 times. And that's equivalent to saying 10 times 4, which is basically 40. So that is the length of the perimeter of the square. It's 40 units long. So D is the right answer. Number 9. The sum of 5 consecutive even integers is 130. What is the sum of the smallest and largest integer? So what are some examples of even integers? So even integers include numbers like 6, 8, 12, 2, 4, 10. All of these numbers are even. Odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Those are odd integers. So we're only dealing with even integers. And even integers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, they differ by 2 units. Now we have 5 even integers, and now they're consecutive. Consecutive numbers are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They go in order. Consecutive odd integers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. You can't skip any odd integers. Consecutive even integers are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so forth. Now we don't have the value of these integers. So we need to use a variable to represent them. The first integer, let's call it x. The second one is going to be x plus 2. So let's say if 10 is the first integer, the next one is going to be 10 plus 2, which is 12. The third integer is going to be x plus 4. 10 plus 4 will give us 14. The fourth is going to be x plus 6, and the fifth, x plus 8. And the sum of these 5 integers is 130. Now let's go ahead and find the value of x, which is the value of the first integer. X plus x plus x plus x plus x 5 times is 5x. 2 plus 8 is 10. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. So 5x plus 20 is 130. Now let's subtract both sides by 20. 130 minus 20 is 110. And now we need to divide both sides by 110. So 110 is basically 100 plus 10. So you could divide these numbers separately. 100 divided by 5 is 20. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 110 divided by 5 is 22. Now that we have the value of x, we have the value of all integers. So if x is 22, the next one has to be 24, and then 26, 28, and 30. So you can go ahead and plug in these 5 numbers. If you add them up, you should get 130. Now the question is asking for the sum of the smallest and the largest integer. The smallest integer is 22, the largest is 30. So 22 plus 30, that's equal to 52. So D is the right answer. Number 10. A line passes through the points 2, 1 and 10, y. If the slope of the line is 3/4, what is the value of y? Well, let's write the slope formula first. The slope, m, is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now we have the points 2, 1 and 10, y. So we could say that x1 is 2 and y1 is 1, x2 is 10 and y2 is y. M is the slope, which is 3/4. y2 is y, y1 is 1, x2 is 10, x1 is 2. So we got to find the missing value. The first thing we can do is combine 10 minus 2, which is 8. And so now we have 2 fractions separated by an equal sign. So now let's cross multiply. 3 times 8 is 24. And 4 times y minus 1, if we distribute, that's 4y minus 4. So now let's add 4 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 4 adds up to 0. 24 plus 4 is 28. Now our next step is to divide both sides by 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So the missing y value is 7, which means E is the right answer. 11. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression shown below? So let's start with 4 to the third power. 4 to the third power is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is 64. Now what about the absolute value of 4 minus 8? 4 minus 8 is negative 4, and the absolute value of any negative number will change it to a positive number. So that's going to be the absolute value of positive 4. And in the denominator, we have the square root of 121, which is 11, because 11 times 11 is 121. Now 5 times 4 is 20, and 2 times 11 is 22. 64 minus 20, that's 44, and 44 divided by 22 is 2. So the entire expression has an equivalent value of 2, which means C is the right answer. Number 12. Sarah received grades of 79, 85, 82, and 86 on her physics exams. What score does she need to get on her next test if she wants an average of 86? So, whenever you want to find the average of a set of numbers, you need to find the sum of those numbers and divide it by the number of numbers in the set. So in this example, the average of 5 tests is 86. N is going to be 5. On top, we need to have the sum of those 5 tests. The sum of the first tests are 79, 85, 82, and 86. We don't know the value of the 5th test, so we're going to call it x. Our goal is to find the value of x. So let's add these 4 numbers. So let's add 79, 85, 82, and 86. The sum of those 4 numbers is equal to 332. So we got 332 plus x divided by 5, and that's equal to 86 over 1. Now let's cross multiply. 86 times 5 is 430. And 1 times 332 plus x, well, that's just 332 plus x. So to find the value of x, all we need to do is subtract both sides by 332. So 430 minus 332 is 98. This is the score that she needs on her 5th exam to bring her average up to an 86. She needs to get a 98 on her 5th exam. If she does so, this will be her new average. So D is the right answer. Number 13. A laptop costs $300. What is the final price of the laptop, including a sales tax of 8%? Well, first, we need to find out how much she pays in sales tax. So what is 8% of $300? Well, if you want to do this mentally, ask yourself, what is the value of 10%? 10% of 300 is $30. If 10% corresponds to 30, what is 1% of 300? 1% is $3. So if 1% is $3, 8% has to be $24, because 8% is 8 times 1%, and 3 times 8 is 24. So that's how you could find it. If you have access to your calculator, you can do this. You can convert 8% into a decimal. To do that, divide it by 100. 8% is equivalent to 0.08. So if you multiply 300 by 0.08, this will also give you 24. So that's how much money he pays in sales tax. And if you add the original $300 for the cost of the laptop, the final price comes out to $324. So C is the right answer. Now, there's a formula that you can use to quickly get the answer if you want to find the final price. And this formula is useful for other problems too. The new price, that is the price after the percent change, or in this case sales tax, the new price is equal to the original price times 1 plus or minus R. In the case of a sales tax, the sales tax will increase the total value of the item, or the total price, so you would use plus R. In the case of a percent discount, you would use minus R, because that would decrease how much you would pay for the item. The original price in this example is $300. And the sales tax, that's going to be positive 0.08. So all we need to do is multiply 300 by 1.08, and that will give us the final price. So this is 324. That's another way in which you can get the same answer. Number 14, the final price of a shirt, including a 7% sales tax, is $48.15. What was the original selling price of the shirt? So in this particular example, we're going to use that formula. The new price is equal to the original price multiplied by 1 plus or minus R. So we have the new price, which is the final price of the shirt. That's $48.15. We're looking for the original price, so let's call it X. And the sales tax is 7%, which is 0.07 as a decimal. So therefore, we have 48.15 is equal to 1.07 times X. So let's divide both sides by 1.07. So this will give us the original price. So it's 48.15 divided by 1.07, and that's equal to $45. Which means that D is the right answer. Now you can check your work. If you take 45 and multiply it by 0.07, this will give you $3.15. This is the amount of tax that was paid. So if you add 45 and 315, you're going to get 48.15. And so you know that this answer is correct. That's how you can check your work. Number 15. A stock is currently selling for $100 per share. If the stock rises 20% in the first year and then falls 20% in the second year, what is the value of the stock at the end of the second year? The answer is not C. Even though it goes up by 20% and falls by 20%, you might imagine that the stock should be at its original price, but that's not the case. Let's use this formula. The new value is equal to the original value times 1 plus or minus r. So the original value is currently 100. We want to find out the new value after it increases by 20%. Now you can tell that 20% of 100 is 20. So the new value should be 120. But for the sake of using the equation and getting familiar with it, this is the way you need to plug it in. The original value is 100, and 20% is, if you divide 20 by 100, that's 0.20. So you got to multiply 100 by 1.2, and that will give you 120. Now in the next year, it's going to go down by 20%. So our original value now is 120. And this time it's going to be 1 minus r, which is 0.20. So 1 minus 0.20 is 0.80. So we're looking for 80% of 120. So 120 times 0.8 is 96. So that's going to be the final price of the stock. So A is the right answer. Number 16. What is the distance between points A and B in the rectangular prism shown below? So what we need to do is find the distance between one corner of the rectangular prism straight to the other corner. Now here are some formulas that you may need to know for a rectangular prism. The volume is equal to the length times the width times the height. The length is 6, the width is 3, and the height is 2. Sometimes you may need to find the surface area, which is 2LW plus 2WH plus 2LH. But in this particular example, we want to find the length of the diagonal. And it's going to be equal to the square root of L squared plus W squared plus H squared. L is 6, W is 3, and H is 2. 6 squared is 36, 3 squared is 9, and 2 squared is 4. 36 plus 4 is 40, and 40 plus 9 is 49. So therefore it's equal to the square root of 49, which is 7. So that is the answer. That is the length of the diagonal. So A is the right answer. So make sure you know these three formulas whenever you encounter a rectangular prism. Number 17. If 2x plus 3y is equal to 22, and if 3x minus 4y is equal to negative 1, then what is the value of 7x plus 8y? To find this answer, we'll need to find the values of x and y. If we can do so, then we can find the value of 7x plus 8y. Now we have two equations and two variables. So therefore, we need to set up a system of equations. Let's use the elimination method to solve it. So we need to cancel either the x or the y variable. Notice that the least common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. So I'm going to multiply the first equation by 4 and the second by 3 so that the y values will cancel. 2x times 4 is 8x. 3y times 4 is 12y. 22 times 4 is 88. 3x times 3 is 9x. 3 times negative 4y, that's negative 12y. And negative 1 times 3 is just negative 3. So now we can add the two equations. 8x plus 9x is 17x. Positive 12y and negative 12y add up to 0. 88 plus negative 3 is 85. So now we just got to divide both sides by 17. So what is 85 divided by 17? This is equal to 5. So now that we have the value of x, we can find the value of y. Let's use the first equation. I really dislike when that happens. Let's use the first equation before multiplying by 4. Let's replace x with 5, and then let's find the value of y. 2 times 5 is 10. And 22 minus 10 is 12. So now we just got to divide both sides by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And therefore, y is equal to 4. Now that we have the values of x and y, we can now find the value of 7x plus 8y. So it's going to be 7 times 5 plus 8 times 4. 7 times 5 is 35, 8 times 4 is 32. So this is equal to 67, which means that answer choice E is the right answer. Number 18, 5 apples and 6 bananas cost $6.15. 7 apples and 8 bananas cost $8.45. How much will 10 apples and 9 bananas cost? So like the last problem, we have a system of equations. So in the first equation, it says 5 apples and 6 bananas, where A is apples, B is bananas. That equals $6.15. And 7 apples and 8 bananas equals $8.45. So what we need to do is find the value of a single apple and a banana. If we can do that, then we could find the value of 10 apples and 9 bananas. So let's focus on canceling A. Let's multiply the first equation by -7 and the second one by 5. 5a times -7 is -35a. 6b times -7 is -42b. And 6.15 times -7, that's -43.05. 7a times 5, that's positive 35a. And then 8b times 5 is 40b. And 8.45 times 5, that's 42.25. Now let's add these two equations. So these will cancel. -42 plus 40, that's -2. And -43.05 plus 42.25, that's -0.8. So if we divide both sides by -2, 80 divided by 2 is 40, so therefore the cost of each banana is 40 cents. Now let's find the cost of an apple. So let's use the first equation, 5a plus 6b, but let's replace b with 40 cents, and that's equal to 6.15. 6 times 4 is 24, so 6 times 0.4 is 2.4. 6.15 minus 2.4, that's 3.75, and that's equal to 5a. So now we just got to divide both sides by 5. 3.75 divided by 5 is 0.75, I mean. So now we have the cost of a single banana and a single apple. So with this information, we can now find the cost of 10 apples and 9 bananas. So 10a plus 9b, that's going to be 10 times 0.75 plus 9 times 0.4. 10 times 0.75 is 7.5. And 9 times 4 is 36, so 9 times 0.4 has to be 3.6. So this is going to add up to 5 and 6 is 11. Carry over the 1. 1, 3, and 7, that's going to be 11. So it's $11.10. So D is the answer. 19. A car travels east from city XYZ at 30 miles per hour, while a bus simultaneously travels north from city XYZ at 16 miles per hour. How far apart will the two vehicles be after 4 hours? So let's say this is city XYZ. The car travels 30 miles per hour east, and the bus travels 16 miles per hour north. Our goal is to find the distance between these two vehicles after 4 hours. So we need to find the distance that each vehicle travels in 4 hours. D is equal to RT. So in the case of the car is traveling at a rate of 30 miles per hour. So after 4 hours, the car will travel a distance of 120 miles. 30 times 4 is 120. Now, in the case of the bus, it has a rate of 16 miles per hour. And after 4 hours, it's going to travel a distance of 64 miles. Now, we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance D. Now, we know c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. C being the hypotenuse, which is the same as D. A, we could say it's 64, and B, 120. So now we got to find the value of D. 64 squared, that's equal to 4,096. And 120 squared, that's going to be 14,400. So now let's add these two values. So this is going to be 18,496. So now we could take the square root of both sides, and this will give us the distance between the two cars, which is 136 miles. So therefore, answer choice D is the right answer. By the way, the video that you're currently watching is a 1-hour trailer version of a longer 3-hour video. So if you want more practice problems, feel free to go to this link and you can access the remaining problems in this video. At this link, you'll also see videos on general chemistry and organic chemistry. So if you need help in those sections, feel free to take a look at that. But let's get back to our work. Number 20. Simplify the following expression. So what is 8 times 10 to the 7 multiplied by 6 times 10 to the 5 divided by 4 times 10 to the minus 6? So what is that equal to? Well, the first thing we should deal with is the numbers 8, 6, and 4. So what we have is 8 times 6 divided by 4. And then we can deal with the exponents. So we have 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 5 divided by 10 to the minus 6. Now, 8 times 6 is 48, and 48 divided by 4, well, that's going to be 12. You could also do it this way. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. Now, what about 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 5th? Whenever you multiply by a common base, you need to add the exponents. So 7 plus 5 is 12. So we have 10 to the 12 divided by 10 to the minus 6. Now when dividing, you need to subtract the exponents. So it's going to be 12 minus negative 6, which is the same as 12 plus 6, and that's 18. So what we now have is 12 times 10 to the positive 18. Now, we need to move the decimal from the 2 in between the 1 and the 2. In scientific notation, you want the number to be between 1 and 10. It can be equal to 1 but less than 10. So right now we have 12 times 10 to the 18. Now what's going to happen if we move the decimal 1 unit to the left? how will that affect the exponent 18? If you move the decimal 1 unit to the left, the exponent will increase by 1. If you move it to the right, the exponent will decrease based on how many points you move it to the right. So since we move it 1 unit to the left, we need to add 1 to the exponent, so it's going to be 1.2 times 10 to the 19th. Now to prove it, 12 is basically 1.2 times 10. So 1.2 times 10 to the, or rather 12 times 10 to the 18th is equivalent to 1.2 times 10 times 10 to the 18th. As you can see, 12 is just 1.2 times 10. So now you can combine 10 to the first power and 10 to the 18th. 1 plus 18 is 19. So therefore, this is equivalent to 1.2 times 10 to the 19th. Which means D is the right answer. The ratio of boys to girls in a class is 3 to 2. If there are a total of 300 students, how many boys are in this class? So what we need to do is set up a proportion between the number of boys and girls in this class. And we're also going to set up a proportion between the total number of students as well. So the ratio between boys to girls is 3 to 2. So out of a total of 5 students, there's 3 boys and 2 girls. Now what about out of a total of 300 students? Let's say B represents the number of boys in the class and G is the number of girls. To find the number of boys, what we need to do is set this fraction equal to this one. So B divided by 3 is equal to 300 divided by 5. Now let's cross multiply. So this is going to be 5B, and that's equal to 3 times 300, which is 900. Now all we need to do is divide 900 by 5. So the number of boys in the class is 180. Now if the total number of students is 300, 300 minus 180 is 120. So the number of girls is 120. But this is the answer that we're looking for. So E is the right answer. 22. An equilateral triangle has a side length of 8. What is the area of this triangle? So let's begin by drawing a picture. In an equilateral triangle, all sides are the same. So if we call the side S, the area is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 4 times S squared. So the side length is 8. So it's going to be root 3 over 4 times 8 squared. 8 squared is 64. And 64 divided by 4 is 16. So the final answer is 16 root 3. So B is the right answer for this problem. A school play charges $7 per ticket for adults and $4 per ticket for children. If 120 tickets were sold for a total of $600, how many children attended the school play? So we need to write 2 equations. The total number of tickets that were sold is 120. So basically that tells us how much people attended the play. So the number of adults plus children must add to 120. Now the second equation has to do with the price. It's $7 per an adult plus $4 per child. And the total sales is equal to 600. So if A is the number of adults and you multiply it by $7 per an adult, you're going to get the total sales from all of the adults. And 4C gives you the total sales from all the kids that attended the play. So we have a system of 2 equations. Let's solve by elimination. Let's multiply the first equation by negative 4. So this is going to be negative 4A minus 4C which is equal to negative 480. Now the second equation, we're just going to rewrite it right below the first one. Now let's add the two equations. Negative 4c plus 4c adds up to 0. And negative 4a plus 7a, that's 3a. Negative 480 plus 600, that's 120. Now let's divide both sides by 3. 120 divided by 3 is 40. So 40 adults attended the school play. Now to find the number of children, let's use this equation. So let's replace a with 40. So 40 plus c is equal to 120. So c is 120 minus 40, which is 80. That's how many children attended the play. So E is the right answer. 24. John travels 200 miles east at 40 miles per hour and makes a return trip at 50 miles per hour. What is his average speed for the entire trip? So traveling east, his speed is 40 miles per hour. And then traveling west, going back to where he came from, is 50 miles per hour. So how can we find the average speed? The average speed is equal to the total distance divided by the total time. It's based on the equation d is equal to rt. So you're looking for the rate. So the rate is the distance divided by the time. But we need to use the total distance. Now, he traveled 200 miles east, which means that he travels 200 miles west. So the total distance is 200 plus 200, or 400 miles in total. Now, what we need to use is, we need to find the total time. So how long did it take him to travel 200 miles east? So using the equation d is equal to rt, going east, he traveled a distance of 200 miles at a rate of 40 miles per hour. So 200 divided by 40 is 5. So it took him 5 hours to travel east. When you think of the rate 40 miles per hour, that means in 1 hour he travels 40 miles. In 2 hours, he covers a distance of 80 miles. 3 hours, 120, 4, 160. So in 5 hours, he's going to travel a distance of 200 miles. Now let's focus on the return trip. Going back west, he traveled the same distance of 200 miles, but his rate is different, it's 50. So 200 divided by 50 is 4. So the return trip only took 4 hours because he was traveling at a faster rate. But the total time for the entire trip is 5 plus 4, or a total of 9 hours. So he traveled a total distance of 400 miles within 9 hours. So now we can calculate the average speed. 400 divided by 9 is 44.4 miles per hour. So notice that the average speed is not 45. You don't average 40 and 50 and say it's 45. The reason being is you're not traveling at these speeds for the same time. Even though the distance is the same, notice that you're spending more time traveling at the slower speed than at the higher speed. So if you spend more time traveling at 40 miles per hour than at 50, the average is going to be closer to 40 than it is to 50. And that's what we see here. The average is 44.4. That's closer to 40 rather than 50. So B is the answer. 25. Susan bought 5 books for $4 and 10 books for $8. What is the average cost of each book? Now we have two price values, $4 and $8. Is the average right in the middle, let's say $6, or is it less than 6 or greater than 6? So is the average closer to 4 or is it closer to 8? Now it's not going to be $6 because the number of books is not the same. If it were the same, then the average price would be $6, but it's not. Notice that she bought more books at the higher price than at the lower price. So therefore, the average is going to be somewhere between 6 and 8. So it's closer to 8 than it is to 4 because she bought more books at 8. Now let's go ahead and calculate the average price or cost of each book. The average cost is going to equal the total cost divided by the total number of books. So what is the total cost? The 5 books were going for $4 each, and the 10 books were going for $8 each. The total number of books is 5 plus 10, which is 15. So if you buy 5 books for $4, you're going to spend $20 on those 4 books. And if you buy 10 books for $8 each, you're going to spend $80. So the total amount of money you're spending for all 15 books is $100. Now if you take the total cost, $100, and divide it by the total number of books, which is 15 books, then you can get the average cost per book, which is $6.67. So the average cost, as we mentioned, is closer to 8 than it is to 4, and it's greater than 6. So D is the right answer. So just by knowing that the average cost is greater than 6, you can eliminate A, B, and C. So now you're down between 2 choices, D and E. By eliminating the wrong answer choices, you increase the chances of getting the right answer. So let me explain. Before we eliminated anything, we had 5 options, one of which is the right answer. So 1 out of 5 correlates to a 20% chance of getting the right answer. But by eliminating answer choices A, B, and C, we now only have 2 options to pick, one of which is the right answer. 1 out of 2 is 50%. So by eliminating those first 3 answer choices, we now have a 50% chance of getting the right answer compared to a 20% chance of getting it before. So even if you're not sure what the final answer is, you can, if you eliminate the wrong answers, you increase the chances of getting the right answer.